What is going on, my friends, and welcome to episode number 3 of the Take a Mulligan podcast. I am, of course, your host, Matt Mulligan, and today I have Shawn Flores on the podcast. Shawn owns Acme Print Company in Pembroke, and he has done a ton of printing for huge bands. Not only has he been touring with the Dropkick Murphys, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones, but he's printed for, Pearl Jam, AC/DC, other big ska bands and rock bands out there. He has done a ton of stuff for huge bands out there, and his story is incredible. He can definitely talk about what he's passionate about, and he's passionate about printing, screen printing. He does stuff for bands, and him and his partner have grown the company from a small 600 square foot facility to a big 4,000 square foot or more now with state-of-the-art printing, and I had a blast talking to him. So here we go, episode number 3, coming at you. All right, Shawn, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So it's funny, we had talked before the podcast started about my poster over there. It's a Neil deGrasse Tyson poster, right? And that was probably, when was that, 3 years ago you made that?
At least, if not 4.
Yeah. The second you walk in, you say, I made that poster.
Sure did.
How did you get that process of making that poster?
That particular poster,
yep.
The people that are promoting Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is Bill Blumenreich, he's the biggest comedy promoter in the country anyway. I mean, he started the careers of Dane Cook and the list goes on. I have friends who work for Bill Blumenreich. I have myself as a stagehand and a runner and just general at the Wilbur Theater. So either way, they know that I have a print facility and they hire friends of mine who do graphic design and help them with marketing. So my friends put that whole thing together where they have Neil deGrasse Tyson as one of their people that they promote,
right,
and put on his performances and his seminars.
Yep. And
they basically sold him on the idea of we should basically sell a ticket that comes with a show poster. You sign them. And he went, great, let's do that. And then we got to find somebody who can print them. And that's where I come in because the connection of friends that I have who work in the city and the network of people.
Right.
So they brought us that whole series of posters.
That's awesome. And being in a field where, because you do screen printing, you still do band supply stuff, right? So like backdrops
Absolutely.
And that type of stuff.
Yep.
Is a lot of that process something that's a last minute thing? Like, I don't know if that was a last minute thing.
No. I mean, the last minute stuff in the nature of where I am with what we do for most bands, the last minute stuff is reorders. The first orders usually have a lot of thought and a lot of planning and a lot of lead time put into it. Mm-hmm. And then you're kind of playing catch up. Like we specialize in screen printing. That's the bulk of our business. And we do lots and lots and lots of printed merchandise. Doesn't matter if it's for bands or it doesn't matter if it's for businesses. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter for really any of that. I lost my train of thought. With the posters and Neil deGrasse, this was something that was coming into the works months in advance. So we had a good lead time to get it done, and it's typically not last minute. You don't really want to do anything last minute.
Yeah. We've had many times where we've used companies that, it comes in last minute. I know we talked before the podcast too, where you sort of try to fit in with clients. If it is something where, okay, we have 6 weeks to do it, I'll fit you in, it might be in the 5th week, or maybe it won't be the 5th week, but I'll fit you in the schedule somewhere to get it done.
Exactly.
That type of thing.
With printing, and especially with, I feel like band merch printing is a lot of people kind of feel like, it's always at the last second. Believe me, no printer on earth wants to do things at the last second. Yeah. It's not smart. It's
stressful,
it's unfortunately it's necessary a lot of the times. And the reason for that is the way most of us think is, I got 6 weeks to do this one, and I'm going to fill up the schedule ahead of it because I got 6 weeks to do it. And some people, that's how they plan on it. Some people simply might actually be backed up that far and they're backlogged and they can't get it done. So the 6 weeks is perfect. For our business, typically everything that comes in and out of our business is under 2 weeks. It's very rare that something sits around in our shop for more than 2 weeks. Very, very rare.
That's great.
And for our particular business, the biggest hurdle is just getting the project off the ground. We're not a big company. A lot of people to find out the work that we put out and the short amount of people that are making it happen, and they're bewildered. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
There's only 2 guys that work in the office, and I should say it's 1.5 because I'm one of them, and I'm almost never in the office because I'm doing a million other things. So,
right.
But yeah, we try to keep everything under 2 weeks. It's very rare that we're outside of that, and that speaks to also the facility that we have too. In the past couple months, we got a new machine, and within a week of it being installed, I had people coming in the door being like, I heard you got this, like we do. And we didn't realize it was a big deal until after we got it.
But what makes that different than a normal? Because you said that you have one of the top in the state or country?
In the state.
In the state.
Yeah.
So what makes this thing different, I guess?
Well, the particular machine that we just got is a very high production volume machine, and it also has a lot of print colors on it. And since it's brand new, it's state of the art, has all the bells and whistles. There's plenty of different companies out there that make equipment, and we could probably even do a whole nother 3-hour podcast on screen printing equipment alone if you want to. I'll bring my business partner. But this particular brand of machinery, we consider it the best in the business, and we didn't realize till after we got this 14 color, fully automatic machine that spits shirts out 1,200 pieces an hour or better.
Wow.
That nobody else in the state has one. I mean, there's bigger machines in New England, but not this particular brand, not this particular style. And, there's plenty of huge production shops way bigger than ours, shops that we work with in New Hampshire. This state, it was a big deal.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So I want to back up for a second. So the company you started was Acme Band Supply. I know you just had a new name today, right? Or yesterday?
Yeah, we just changed it to Acme Print Company, kind of out of necessity. When we started the company, there were a lot of reasons for that particular name. At this point in time, when we're busy and we're doing a lot of screen printing, getting calls about a saxophone rental or, something like that. Sorry, I got to change the business name.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So, even with our logo is a drone. I don't know if you've seen it, but when I first started the company, it was just drone photography. So now we still have the drone as a logo, but we do a lot more than that. So I'm always up in the air with, do I change the logo? Do I keep it? At this point, because people know our logo so much, we're going to keep it. It's a conversation starter too. Like we get calls, I do sometimes, like, do you sell drones? Do you race drones? We don't do that. We do videography. Exactly. So it's similar with you. It's like, can we rent a guitar from you? It's like, no. But we do this for
but
different
when you start
bands.
a band and you need a dozen T-shirts, then
you call us. Yeah. So take me back. So when you had Acme Band Supply, that was the company name when you first started.
Still is.
Still is. But what was the process like when you first started? How did you create your company?
The way the company was created, and I hope it's not too long. I'll try and keep it short. It was out of necessity for me. I had just spent 9 years on the road full time working for Dropkick Murphys. They are my friends to this day. I still work for them. I still call Ken Casey all the time. We do a lot of boxing posters and flyers and all that kind of stuff together, as well as I still work for the band. They still need somebody to drive a box truck, out to Springfield for the first day of the show. I got to haul the merch out. I still vend the T-shirts like I did all the way back in 2004 when I first started working.
Still do that
them.
now, really?
You'll see me at the table at St. Patrick's Day unless something else happens in the next couple of weeks. But I'm always there. I've been with the band for a very, very long time, and those are people that I hold dear to heart. They're family band, they're friends. It's a tight-knit group of dudes that as soon as we get off tour, we'd go golfing together the next day.
That's
just part of what we did together. So anyways, I retired from the road. Basically, 1, I was burnt out. And 2, my wife and I had twins. So she was like, you're not hitting the road anymore. So I needed to do something. And I really only had a couple of options at the time. Get a straight job somewhere. Like, I could get a job anywhere, I think. I could get to Lowe's and probably work my way up the ladder pretty quick. I could even go back to the screen printing shop that I used to work at before I took the Murphy job. And I decided I didn't want to do either. Why don't I just start my own screen printing business? Every band out there needs merch. I've been printing merch for bands the whole time I was on the road through my buddy who still worked at a screen printing shop. So these bands are calling me, but let me backtrack a little bit. Sorry. Before I hit the road, I had a clientele of local bands that needed T-shirts, and I would punch out at 5:00, print band T-shirts, deliver them to Boston, get paid, and then continue my day like I normally do.
And that was your side gig?
That was the side gig.
Okay.
I worked full time for this particular screen printer,
Yep.
and they let me just use their equipment at night off the clock, and I paid for the supplies and the screens and everything I used, and they were happy with that. And then, like I said, I took the job with the Murphys, and all those bands still needed merch. So one of my buddies who worked at that particular screen printer did all that printing on his own while I was on the road, and I facilitated everything. So when I retired, I looked at him, he looked at me, and I said, we always talked about starting a business together. We had a meeting at a bar. I think it was TK O'Shea's in Rockland.
I live right near there.
There you go.
That's hilarious.
That's where we had the meeting. I said, so we going into business together? And he said, yep. And that's where Acme started. So we started the business. We got a manual press and a dryer, and it was a microscopic little 600 square foot, storefront in Marshfield. And we're next door to a screen printer. They weren't too thrilled that another screen printer was 35 feet away. And that's where I came up with the company name. Like, I wanted to do it legally and, have a real business and pay taxes and everything else that you got to do.
Right.
And I said, don't worry, I'll come up with a company name that doesn't have anything with screen printing. I will not put a sign in the building. Don't worry about us. And to this day, we haven't looked back. We were in that 600 square foot position for about 2 years. And then we made the leap to an industrial setting. We moved across the highway to Pembroke, and we've actually moved twice since. We went from 600 square feet to 1,500 square feet. Then we moved across the park to a 4,000 square foot facility. Wow. And then just about 8 months ago, we took over another 2,000 feet. So we're from one manual press, we're now at 3 autos, 1 manual, 6,000 square feet, warehousing, major production.
That's incredible.
Big, yeah.
That's incredible.
And that's all in about 7 years.
7 years. Mm-hmm. 7 years.
Yep.
How did you get in contact with the Dropkick Murphys back when you first started working with them?
It was through their tour manager at the time. My friend Grant, local ska legend. He managed all the local ska bands like the Elstonians and Big D and the Kids Stable and you name it. Put on ska shows. And if you ever went to a ska show in the mid to late 90s, whether it was the Middle East or the Rat or something, there was a guy in the back of the room with a wooden box full of CDs, mostly the Moon Ska catalog. That was Grant. And we were friends, and I was printing merch for Big D and the Kids Stable at the time, and he managed them for a little bit. He took them on their first tour to Florida and tour managed them. At that time in 2004, he was the full-time tour manager for Dropkick Murphys. So they were on a U.S. tour of some extent, and at this particular time, they had a woman named Stephanie. She's blonde, and she sings the Dirty Glass. Yep. She was the merch sidekick because they've always been a big merch-selling band. They had another gentleman named Rob, who was from Kansas City, and they rolled into town, and Stephanie was like, I can't sell merch in Boston. I don't want to do it. But Rob was obviously there, so Grant was like, I get a guy who can do this. Because at that point, I was just moonlighting as a merch guy.
Yeah.
I would go on the road with Big D. I mean, they took me to Europe. We went on a cross-country tour, California, DIY rooms and bars. There was 11 of us in a 15-passenger van. Somebody had to sit in the middle of the back bench with a spare tire under there. You couldn't even put your feet down. And, it was tight, but we had fun. Yeah. I'm still friends, and I still print their merch to this day. Mm-hmm. So that's how it got started. Grant, he said, I got a guy who can help. And I went in to help, and I hit it off with Rob instantly. And, we became friends. And then they went off to Europe as soon as St. Patrick's Day was over. And then their manager at the time, Diane, she called me like 3 months later, and she was like, I need you to cover the 20th anniversary of the Warped Tour at Gillette Stadium. And I went, yeah, that's fine. So I rented a box truck. I went to New Hampshire. I picked up the T-shirts, set up a tent, sold all the merch. And apparently that was the test. And she decided that I was the guy for the job. And she said, it was shortly after that, she goes, I want you to be our full-time merch guy. And I went, well, I have a job, and I have health insurance, and I have 401k. And she was like, I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. And
no way.
I took the plunge, and I never looked back.
Wow. Wow.
So I've been with him ever since. And it was tough for me and Rob for a little bit. And after plenty of time passed, he got involved with other bands and whatnot, and we're friends now.
But do you, when you did, and I know you still work with them too, but do you tour with them? Or do you, I don't know how, does that work?
No, I did.
Separate from them?
I was their merch manager for 9 years. And I was in charge of making shirt designs. I had a network of artists around me that I worked very well with, that we'd put some of the best, most, fruitful shirts that the band has ever done together. And I went on the road full time with them. I sold it every night. I got help where I needed to. I advanced with them. I dealt with, all the bookkeeping, bank deposits, all that stuff for the band. It really didn't matter. And that was for the band and their charity foundation, the Clatta Fund. And then the restaurant groups and everything else he came up with. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of fun too, at the same time.
Wow. And now I know you mentioned, the Mighty Mighty Bosstones and there's other bands too, but have all those connections been from your company? Mainly. Is that really how you started to meet these people?
Mostly the Dropkick Murphys. People, I don't think people really understand how tight knit the music industry is. It doesn't take, maybe 3 or 4 people removed before you realize you're connected with somebody in the music industry.
Yeah.
And all those years of working with Dropkick Murphys and all those venues, all those bands we toured with, all these people that, maybe printed stuff, or, I make belt buckles, or, a lot of the Warped Tour. I spent a couple of years in the Warped Tour with the Dropkick Murphys, and there's a sense of community out there and family. And to this day, I still work. I got an email from a guy that I spent the 2005 Warped Tour with. I don't talk to him every day, but he emailed me just 2 days ago about 2,000 shirts for this major video project he's working on. I can't even give the name, but it's big time. And they need, 1,400 to 2,000 individual shirts to shoot a video for. And I'm like, let's go.
And your machine can handle that because you have this.
Not quite. It's going to be a different animal.
Almost,
probably another podcast. That's a whole nother animal doing 2,000 different shirts.
Yeah.
But we're the kind of company that's going to take that head on. Because a lot of other companies are like, I can't do that. Or they're going to try and take the job and then realize that they're in way over their heads. For us, we think about it for 10 minutes and then go, here's how it could be done, and get a plan in place. And if we get a purchase order for it, it's go time.
You'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll make it happen.
Yeah, we'll make it happen no matter what. A case in point, we had a very large job at the beginning of January for a company that we just started working with, and not even 24 hours into the project, I realized that we weren't going to pull it off. So again, you got to figure something out. And I called JSR Merchandising / Forward Merchandising out of New Hampshire. I've been working with these people since 2004. And I said, I need all 5 of your presses on Friday. Can you do it? All right, let me move a couple of things around. And they bailed us out because I knew I wasn't going to hit the finish line. So that's that network and the community.
That camaraderie too, I'm sure. Yeah,
you need it.
Yeah, wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. Tell me, what was your favorite tour that I guess you've been on? I know you've done a lot of different things with a lot of different bands, but are there a few tours or one tour that stood out to you as like, this was
absolutely
really fun? Cool?
The most fun tour that I remember with Dropkick Murphys, and this actually just came up the other day. Most of the guys in the Murphys have all the socials, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Al put a picture up of all of us in the bottom lounge of our European bus. In 2005, we supported the Pogues on their annual Christmas tour. And it was a little weird for everybody because the entire entourage, all 7 band members, all 10 crew members, I can't remember how many, a lot of dudes had to be smashed into one bus on that tour. And this is coming from like the 2005 Warped Tour where they had 3 buses. Yeah. Like on the Warped Tour, there was a half crew / all of Big D and the Kids Stable bus. Then there was a half crew, half Dropkick Murphys band bus, and then what we called family bus, which was the older guys in the band who had all their wives and kids in and out all summer long.
Yeah.
So taking like a 3-bus tour and smashing everybody into an 18 bunk sleeper coach was a little interesting. But I got to say, Al put that picture up and we're all wearing Santa hats and we're all really happy. And, that has always been the one that stuck out in my mind, meeting Spider Stacy, who's somebody that I'm Facebook friends with to this day. Mm-hmm. And, every now and then we'll say hello. And just the legendary Pogues and doing their legendary Christmas tour. And, it's just magical, every night they did their show and you got arenas of 17, 20,000 people a night singing every word to every song, arm in arm, singing and dancing, and it's just the holiday spirit and everything about it. And for me, that was always the one that was the most fun for me because it was I probably because I wasn't working all that much. We were the opening band. Oh, you guys only get 2 shirts kind of thing. But it was a lot of fun. And being in the UK we flew home on Christmas Eve to finish that tour. Wow. And even on the flight home, the entire airplane was empty. there was only 20 people ticketed on the plane, and we were flying from Shannon, Ireland back to Logan. So like the flight crew was like, everybody move up to first class. I mean, what are you sitting back here for?
Like, oh,
you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it was just one of those tours where like everything made sense. It was great.
Wow. What about tours that didn't go well? Maybe not necessarily Dropkick Murphys, but even just, I guess, even just like in your work in general, like have there been things that just have not gone
I
your
wouldn't
way?
say that no tours like didn't go well. I do remember specifically that there was the first time I went to Australia with the band. It was a rude awakening, if you will. Like the entire crew had never gone down there and like did a tour. I don't know this. I think the Dropkick Murphys had never gone to Australia with a full crew in the past. And when you tour in Australia, I mean, geographically, it's about the size of the United States. But if you look at a map, the distance between your 5 shows is New York City to Atlanta,
Yeah.
Atlanta to Houston, Houston to Los Angeles. Like you have to fly every
Really
day.
spread apart. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to
Yeah.
fly every day, and the cheapest flights in Australia, the first one's out of the airport in the morning. So you're on a 5 or 6 a.m. flight every day. So we do a show, and by the time we get back to our hotel, it's 2 in the morning, and we'd have a 4 a.m. lobby call to get back to the airport to fly to the next show.
Oh, jeez.
Brutal. And we did that for 6 days straight. So, I mean, you got an entire crew, and, obviously the band didn't have to fly in that regard, but the crew did, because you got to get to the next city for 11 a.m. to build
You got
the
to
show.
set up, you got to build everything.
Get ready for,
Right.
a 3 o'clock sound check. And,
Right.
that was really hard on everybody. Like we all made it out alive, but it was difficult. I wouldn't say that it was, the worst or anything like that, because I was in Australia for the first time. How
Yeah.
great is that?
How great is that?
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
those are what makes touring like difficult, when you're forced to do a really tough itinerary like
Right,
that.
right. And you still tour with them now?
No.
Right. You don't
No,
do anymore.
I've been
Okay.
retired for about 7 years.
Oh,
now.
that's right. 7
No.
years. Yeah, yeah. So Brian Logan was on the last podcast. You know him pretty well, Hammering the Nails. And his story is great about balancing his work and life. I think because he has a family, he has a band, and he works for the P400 upstairs. With you, this is your full-time gig, but do you have other aspects of your life that kind of intercede in that? And how do you begin to balance that with the company?
I have a fantastic wife who does the lion's share of taking care of our 6-year-old twins. And I put in as much as I possibly can as a business owner, and the demand of trying to service tours taking place all over the country. Almost, 10 months out of the year, there's nights where I don't make it home. And if I do, it's very late at night. We try to keep them farther and further apart, that we have to do those things. But we're the kind of company that does whatever it takes to get the job done. Even if our employees, hey, it's 6 o'clock, you guys have been here for 10 hours, whatever. Go home, get a good night's sleep. We're going to need you tomorrow. And my business partner, Chris, and I, if we have to, we'll stay till 1, 2, 3 in the morning to keep going.
Right.
Just, because we have to.
You have to get it done.
You have to have that hunger to keep the business going. Like if you don't, you'll level off, and I don't know what our ceiling is. And, that's kind of why I changed the company name, because I want to broaden out what we're doing a little bit more and be able to print for maybe, like Plymouth 400 that might be looking for a printer around here that might go right past something called Acme Band Supply. So that's why we're shifting towards Acme Print Company. We don't want to step in the toes of local printers. Truly, we don't. There's plenty of them around. There's plenty of work to keep everybody busy. We want the other local printers to be able to rely on us when they can't handle the workflow. And we've had that relationship with several local companies right now, where they get too busy. In secrecy, they send it over to us. We get the print done, send it back to them. Customer's happy. Everybody wins.
Yeah. I know, because before I started my company, I used to be an architect. And architecture school, I'm going to make a weird correlation to what you do, but when you have a deadline for a project, architecture students always have this stigma, and people who look into our industry is you are working 24 hours a day to get a project done. And when we were in school, you would see engineering students and math students, and they'd work until 4 o'clock, and they'd go in for dinner, where we would be in the studio working all night. So it was almost,
life is no different.
It seems like that. But I was going to ask, so with my company now being a startup, I've put in significantly more hours than most people do. Has that been something that you've always had, that drive to get something done? Or has the whole music field you're in, has that really broadened your horizon to doing that?
Well, for me, it took me probably 6 years to get out of the rock and roll life schedule.
Yeah, it must be tough to do that.
Sleeping on a bus, which is awesome, and, finally finishing, whether it's counting cash or whatever I had to do at the end of the night, that could be upwards of 5 a.m. sometimes, getting to sleep, and then I got to be up at noon, so my clock, even when I was back in high school, I've never been a morning guy. My wife used to smash on the side of my house. We've been together since high school. She's smashing on the side of the house to wake me up, in the morning, like, we got to go to school. Yeah. So I've never been a morning guy. So that kind of helped us in our business because, my business partner, Chris, he was working a full-time job. He would leave there at 5 o'clock. He'd make it over to our place at about 6 and then get going. And we'd work into the wee hours of the morning, and then he'd sleep for a couple hours and then do it again. Whereas for me, I've always had that nightlife thing kind of built into my brain from all the years of whether it's just going to shows in the city or, so it was for many years, Chris and I thought we got more work done in the middle of the night than during the day because you get two guys who put a funny movie on the TV that you don't have to watch, but you know what's going to happen. So you can laugh while you're working and, and just hammer out shirts all night long. And that's what we did for a long time. We typically don't do it all that much anymore, which is good. Yeah. And I'm usually asleep before midnight and up before 8 a.m., which is like the first time in my life that I've ever been able to do that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we put in a lot of hours and we have to, put in that effort as business owners. One, to meet payroll, there's 12 people on payroll at our company that, that's rent and food and car payments and everything else. Like, not to mention, there's 4 kids between my business partner and my kids and wives and mortgages and houses and everything else. So, you got to have that drive to really, keep money coming in and keep work going out. That's how we get paid. That's how we make our living.
Yeah. It's once you involve, like I'm getting married in October of this year. So it's like, thank you. Once you get into having a wife, buying a house, eventually having kids, now it's real. I feel like to me, like before, yes, it was, but it was just her and I.
It becomes real.
It becomes real. Yeah. So now, and you're in this right now, but how has it been different from when you first started until now? Like, has there been things that you've obviously learned along the way, but like, how has the transition period been from pre-family to post-family, now growing the company, changing the name and continuing to grow it?
I don't think it's an easy question. I don't think I have a straight up answer for it. For me personally, the transition has been, I have an odd situation where not everybody has twins. And when you have twins and, the two of us are fighting over who's going to bed. You go to bed. No, you go to bed. No, you go to bed. And then we both pass out on the floor, that kind of thing. Like, and we started that situation with the babies when I started the company. Mm-hmm. So, those years were really difficult. And we also, to this day, we're still reinvesting into our business. Like, there was 3 years straight that my business partner and I did not take a paycheck. We couldn't. There was no money. It just like it didn't happen as we're trying to build an organic business that we're not poaching any customers. We're not stepping on any local printers' toes, the whole bit. We really put everything we had into that business. Fast forward to all these years later, the best thing that we did was hire somebody to help. Now, as horrifying as that is, like, now I'm committed to a paycheck. Mm-hmm. It was the best thing in the world because suddenly that freed up even, this guy's working 10 hours a week. That's 10 less hours than we have to work. Yeah. Now, at this point, we kind of grow organically, try to keep the employees with the workload. Yeah. And that's definitely the best part of the transition is being able to hire some people to help. And we have some really good people that work for us. And we have some people that have been working us for years. And, as far as I know, everybody's very happy. Nobody wants to leave. We don't consider that we're a grindhouse. We don't consider, we think that we're a pretty okay place to work. We think we're fair. And, every time I put out a job offering, I get 12 applicants, 3 of which are spectacular, and hire one and see how it goes.
Yeah, it's important to have employees who are going to be with you and on the same train that you are. So like, even with Ryan here and other employees too, you have to kind of set the standard of like, here's where I want to take the company, and if you want to be a part of that and be on that and help us, then I would love to have you. Yep. I'm sure you've had employees possibly that maybe haven't worked out because they really were missing the mark on that. We've
had a couple of people that will leave us, and I won't go into specifics about it. but it's part of the business. I've never actually had to fire somebody. Not yet, which is awesome. I had a major disagreement with one person, and it worked itself out organically on the spot. But there was never a like I quit, I'm out of here, and storm out. I've never said you're fired, leave. It's never happened. But we've had people that are just like, we're going to separate. We're just going to go different ways, which is fine because what we do is not for everybody. And that's the truth of it. So
Absolutely.
You hope to have everybody, and with employees, the employees are investing in your business, because I'm going to commit to this instead of doing that, which is what you need. And
Absolutely.
You are investing in your employees because you need the employees to make not only the business better, but, employees need to make money for the business. You need to make money for your employees. Yeah. It's got to be a mutual agreement that you work together. And I am not an industry professional on employment by any means. I'm still horrified by it.
Yeah.
But it's something you got to do.
Right. So, yeah. When you tell me a little bit about, when you first started off, we'll go back for a second here. You started off in the 600 square foot place, and you kind of kept doubling until you got to where you are now. What mistakes have you learned, I guess, from an infrastructure wise part? Like, what have you learned from getting that small operation to becoming a bigger operation? Like, what mistakes have you made from making that transition?
I wish I could pinpoint a real mistake.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this out of like ego or anything like that. I don't believe that we've made too many mistakes. And if we have, it hasn't been anything that's been catastrophic or worth it to
your business.
Keep in my brain.
Yeah.
What I can say is that through our growth, every single time that we've tried to do something or wanted to do something, it's been well thought out and planned. And I got a business partner. I'm very fortunate. There's a lot of businesses out there and people that'll say, don't ever go into business with a partner and this and that. It's never going to work and you'll hate each other in a year and this and that. My business partner, Chris, and I have been on the same wavelength since I met him in 1998 and we started Print Shirts. We had the same love of printing. We had the same love of music and all this cool stuff. He worked at a shop that did mostly athletic stuff. To this day, they still do. And they're a great shop and we still work together this day. And we actually depended heavily on them at the onset of when we started our business. If you want to do another podcast someday, I can give you all that too, because that's a whole nother story. But we've had that connection and that growth. And what we've done every single time we've expanded is we've put a plan down. Here's the costs. This is the benefit, weighing the pros and cons to do it, and then stressing out about it for a couple of weeks and then making the plunge. And then for us, every time we've jumped, why did we wait so long?
Yeah.
Really, honestly, why did it take so long to go from 600 square feet to 1,500 square feet? And I'm talking the 1,600 square foot place. We started getting orders that were hundreds and hundreds of shirts. We're doing a lot of work for this company called Forward Merch up in New Hampshire, and they cover the most metal of the metal bands you've ever heard of, like stuff from Norway and Sweden and, northeastern Quebec and like all this weird metal and like awesome gnarly shirts. And they didn't have enough time and machinery to do it. And then he's like, wait a minute, you guys got a press? Yeah. Bam. There's 35 cases at my door. I don't have room for 35 cases of T-shirts in a 600 square foot place. Luckily, we had a porch outside. So just leave them on the porch. And then when we left at 2 or 3 in the morning, you had to bring all the boxes in and shove them in the office area.
Yeah.
And then whoever was in first had to drag all the boxes back outside so we can get work done.
You made it work.
Yeah, we made it work for 2 years. And then, it was really, really low rent. It was only like $500 a month rent for this particular 600 square feet of space. And it was awesome. And we maxed it out and used every single square inch of this place that we possibly could. And that's when we decided to make the leap. And when we thought about making that first leap, I looked at every storefront sort of place in Marshfield because I didn't know any better. And I tried to get this one and I tried to get that one and afraid of the rent costs and all that. And then I decided to call the local corporate park in Pembroke that has all kinds of industrial space. And they told me, you can get this 1,500 square feet. It's going to be like, $1,300 a month or something like that. And I'm horrified. I'm like, how the heck? There's months I couldn't come up with $500 rent. How would I come up with $1,500? And I'll never forget it. The woman who works for the real estate company, she said, well, with more square footage, you should be able to generate more revenue. And she made it seem like I don't want to say stupid, but she was like,
right, but a light bulb went off. Like, yeah,
you
duh.
didn't know that?
Right.
And I was like, no,
Right.
I didn't know. What are you talking about? That's horrifying. How can I come up with an extra, $900 a month to give you?
Yeah.
And she couldn't have been more right. As soon as we got into this place, we exploded. And suddenly it was quicker. We were more efficient. It was easier. I got a second manual. We had plenty of space. And I mean, we just took off from there. And at that point, every single thing that we did for the rest of our growth, we're buying with even more foresight. You know what? If we're going to get a bigger press in 5 years and we have to replace this dryer now, we're getting a dryer that can service this and the next machine.
Smart.
That's how you have to do it, especially in screen printing, because you can get there and you can get the machine you need, but now you're going to have to pay to flip it later on. And we've flipped a lot of equipment as we've grown, but we've also stayed ahead of every single thing we've needed to buy so that we're prepared and not wasting money replacing it sooner than you would have to.
Is it industry where there's newer technology that keeps coming out to replace the old quickly?
Yes and no.
Now
in the screen printing world, they're really pushing digital. Now, we all know digital and there's direct to garment, and the latest incredible invention is the M&R, the equipment that we're pretty loyal to. They invented this machine called the digital squeegee, and it's a hybrid.
Great name.
It's a digital printer that basically connects to your traditional screen printing machine, and you put a white underbase down, and then the digital squeegee does the whole print, just like a photograph or an office desk printer. And you don't have to set up 10, 12, 18 screens to get the same print. Now the machine costs $250,000.
Yeah.
And I sit there and go, that's a heck of a lot of t-shirt, But for us and our business, we'd rather just set up the 12 screens and print 1,000 shirts, for us, But this is the industry's main focus right now, is selling this digital equipment. And I don't think that the industry's, my own belief is like, there's a space for this and it exists and it's going to be something. I don't anticipate anything overtaking and eliminating screen printing at all. It's too efficient. The technology hasn't changed all that much in general screen printing. You get ink, you get a screen, you get a machine, a squeegee. It's it.
That's it.
That's it. And the machines can get faster and sleeker and smarter, but the general nuts and bolts are the same. And the digital aspect is there, and there's definitely a market for it. But when Guns N' Roses is going on tour this summer, they're doing screen printing. They're not doing the digital squeegee. You know what I mean? It's the volume is there. You can do tens of thousands of print on the same squeegee for cents a print. Whether you get the digital, just that liquid digital ink is more expensive than plastisol. So
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah.
That kind of thing. So we're set up to just keep going with screen printing for a long time. I don't anticipate we're ever going to get a digital t-shirt machine. We're not set up like that. We don't have people walking in our business saying, it's Aunt Kathy's 40th and I want to put her face on a shirt. There's a market for that. We don't have that.
You're not in that market. Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the first order you ever got for screen printing?
The very first order, I actually do not remember the very first one.
Or the one that you remember.
The first one you remember, yeah. In our facility, we set up the press, set up the dryer, burned a screen. It was our logo.
It was your logo?
Of course. I mean, of
course.
And at the time, our logo has kind of changed 4 or 5 times, but it's always had a lightning bolt in it. And it's kind of funny because all these other screen printing shops that I've seen over the past 3 years have introducing lightning bolts into the logo. I'm like, well, what the heck, why does everybody have a lightning bolt in their logo now? Now we look stupid.
Yeah.
But the reality is, 9 years ago, we had a lightning bolt in their logo, and I didn't know of a single other screen printing shop that introduced a lightning bolt into their logo. And, even our friends next door, Levitate, knocked off one of our logos, flattering, it wasn't like they knocked it off because we work very close with Levitate and the festival and everything else. But they sent over, a box of shirts and the artwork for it. And I said, this looks kind of familiar. And she goes, yeah, I love your logo.
It's flattering.
It's kind of funny like that. But yeah, it was the first, it was the very first shirt that we did was definitely the lightning bolt logo. The first contracted band shirts we ever did, believe it or not, the Temptations.
Really?
Yep.
The Temptations.
The Temptations. And to this day, I have the films hanging up in my office.
How'd you get that?
Ford merch.
They
are a customer. The Temptations are a customer of theirs. And at this particular time, Jeff, the owner of the company, who I just went to Tennessee with to have a meeting with another bigger company we're both trying to work with, he's been a friend of mine since 2004 with Dropkick Murphys. Dropkick Murphys were his customer. I'm calling him to get the shirts. he's got this company that has existed in rock and roll. This guy toured with like the Ramones and Guns N' Roses, and like,
Wow.
you know, like he's a guy that's been in the industry. And every time I have a problem, I call him first. I'm like, what do you think about this? You know, when we first got Pearl Jam came to us, and I was a little bummed out because, well, not Pearl Jam specifically, but their merch company came to us. And he's like, I need you to print these shirts overnight. I'm going to text you the set list. You're going to put it on the back of a shirt. I need it on Yawkey Way, 9 a.m. And I went, all right, great. It's going to cost you, you're providing the shirts? He's like, yep, all right, cool. How about $3 a print? And he went, nope, it's worth $1.40. Well, what are you talking about? And you're like, this is undercutting everybody that I've been working with for like 5 years now. And he went, don't care. It's take it or leave it. I'll find somebody else. Give me 10 minutes. And I called Jeff and I said, here's what's going on. And he went, you have to take that. What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, but he's undercutting you and you keep me busy all year. And he went,
right.
You have to take it. It's Pearl Jam. All right, fine. So I went back and I took it. And then, like, you know, not only did Pearl Jam end up making good, like, you know, even getting us what we wanted and then some at the end of it, but it also laid the footprint for when they did their second shows at Fenway Park
Absolutely.
a year ago. I got the call a month out saying, can you do all 27,000 shirts for the entire Fenway Parks run? And I went, all right.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. You know, the first order was like 1,000 and now you're talking 27,000 pieces, and, you know, it builds a relationship. And that same guy, you know, he sent us work with the Pixies and, you know, all these other bands that he works with. So you just kind of have to start the business somewhere and then see where it evolves to.
Even with us, like I've done the first 6 months or even more was all free work. I had no portfolio at all. So in order to get a portfolio, I'm not going to charge someone $1,000 to do a video when I have nothing to show. So I did a free restaurant video, you know, drone videos, real estate videos, just to get something.
Yeah.
And those clients that I had back then are still clients now. So the Pearl Jam thing, even though, you might not have made it a lot or undercut people, now you have a 27,000 shirt order.
So they came back to us to get, you know, and that's kind of how you have to go. And, you know, and you know, Jeff didn't care that I was getting less money to work for some, you know, do work for somebody else, even though he was my number one customer and he's sending us all the gnarly metal and, you know, like they do a lot of Broadway work and like, you know, things that I would never imagine. I can't go into a lot of offices out there and say, hey, I'm a screen printer.
Yeah.
Can you send me a shirt? They're not going to do it. You know, they send it to guys like him. He does as much as he can, and it's not just him. We service a lot of merch companies. We work with, you know, whether it's Kings Road in California, they own the Dropkick Murphys merch rights, but it only makes sense to have me print it. So
Right.
they send all the Dropkick Murphys work over to us, you know, like, hey, the truck is leaving South Boston with all the gear. You print the stuff. He's going to swing by your place, pick it up and go. The other thing with, you know, with that relationship, I have a great relationship with Kings Road. We do so much Dropkick Murphys work. They send us mostly everything that starts on the East Coast. Doesn't matter if Descendants, Interrupters, Behemoth, you know, like it doesn't matter. You know, all these things we did a couple of years ago, we did the Tim and Eric show, the entire merch run for Tim and Eric. And it was, you know, like it started in Maine and then, you know what, we couldn't keep up with it. Like there was merch was selling so well that, you know, we just kept shipping out all the way across the country. And that's typically what we do. If we start the tour, we're going to end it because your merch sales, you know, they start up here and then they kind of, you want it to dwindle down as you get to the end of the tour.
Right.
You don't want to have 1,000 shirts left over. So the orders get smaller and smaller is what I'm saying.
Makes sense.
You know, as you can project better and that kind of thing. So, you know, that's what we do.
Wow. Has there been any, because like the bands you've mentioned and people you've mentioned, to me, you're like, I would almost get starstruck, I feel like.
Oh, I was
Has
too.
there been some that you've like, oh my God, I get to do screen print? Who has that been?
I mean, like personal favorites. The former manager for the Dropkick Murphys, Diane, she sent me a text message one day saying that The Living End needed merch. And, you know, they're going to start out here, you know, can you print 4 shirts for The Living End? And I was, oh my God. You know, like The Living End, like if I can name one band that for like Chris and I and even JC, one of our press operators, and something that we could for years and years and years, you could put on that everybody in the room is like, yes, it's The Living End. It's that punk, it's that rock, it's that rockabilly, this Australian band. And I was like, and they're not the biggest band in the world. You know, most people probably haven't heard of them, but for me, it was like The Living End. Oh my God, this is awesome, you know. And then, you know, from there, like, you know, AC/DC is one that comes in. I know
Favorite all-time band.
Yeah, when they did Gillette Stadium the last time, you know, five
I was
years
there.
ago.
Yeah.
So
The Black Ice tour. The
yep.
one. Yeah.
Yep, the last record that they put out, they called Forward, Jeff at Forward, and said, we forgot to order kids merch. And he was like, what do you want me to do about it? And they're like, we need kids merch. And he was like, I can't do it. He's booked with his own stuff. Call Shawn. So AC/DC called us and said, can you get this done? Yeah, we're AC/DC. Sure, let's do it.
That's
and
incredible.
then, so we printed, the classic, Canon, and drove them down to Gillette. And I happen to know the sale from my years with the Dropkick Murphys. I have relationships with Gillette Stadium. I have relationships with Fenway Park, and the team that vends at Fenway Park, case in point, a company out of Tennessee called Future Shirts. They had Jason Aldean coming to Fenway Park with Kid Rock, and they had yet to do a ballpark show in this setting and co-headlining and whatnot. And they talked to Fenway and said, we need a local printer on standby just in case we didn't order enough merch. And they're like, call Shawn. So now, 3 years later, I was at Future Shirts on Monday just to finally introduce these people in person.
Wow.
I didn't print any Jason Aldean stuff that night, but you know what I mean? Like, these are the relationships.
Well, goes to show you relationships.
Gillette Stadium the crew that works there tells these people, Shawn will do it.
Yeah.
Fenway Park crew said, Shawn will do it. Forward Merch up in New Hampshire, Shawn will do it,
Yeah.
And by I say Shawn, I mean Acme.
Yeah.
It's not just me.
Yeah.
It's not me at all.
Yeah. No, it's incredible how, the amount of connections you make can make a huge difference. Whether you do a little favor for one person and that catapults you to do something else, or the Pro Jam thing and do a little order to get a bigger order.
It even gets my kids excited. Kings Road sent us the Aquabats tour this past summer, and the Aquabats at that time were my kids' favorite thing in the world. The Bosstones, who are another, I take a lot of pride in being able to print and service the Bosstones merch world. I do it all. And, that's an honor for me. I'm married to my wife because of this band, the relationship and the music, and she used to wear one of their shirts every day. And I said, what do you mean? What is this? And she was like, oh, you'd love it. And then I got on my skateboard and skated the mile to her house and knocked on the door, and she opened, what the hell are you doing here? And I was like, well, I want to hear this Bosstones thing. We've been together ever since.
That's your life, really?
And to this day, I have a relationship with the band, and Dickie calls me and says, here's the shirt idea. And I make it happen. And, I have to go out on the road with them from time. I don't go the touring anymore, but I'm in charge of the entire Hometown Throwdown. I build the sets. There's gigantic set, when we built the Rat a couple of years ago. I don't know if you saw that. We made the stage at House of Blues look like the facade of the Rat with the whole lit sign, and I mean that's all comes from Acme. That's
oh my God.
It's and that's something that is exciting. Being able to have these opportunities to work with these bands who are legends. Dropkick Murphys, Mighty Mighty Bosstones,
Seriously,
AC/DC. I even like the little bands that you've never heard of. There's a tiny band over here anyway called Judah from Rome, Italy. They're amazing. And they call us, we need more shirts. And they only need a couple dozen shirts. They'll come over here for, a month or so. But, it's something that we listen to the shop once a week. It's just traditional 70s era rock and roll, like roller skates and big hair and tight jeans. And it's awesome. You know what I mean? But we like to print merch for bands, and that's what we're lucky to be able to do that.
Tell you're passionate about music, so it seems to fit perfectly. And printing,
we're print nerds.
Yeah,
we're print nerds. We go into Target or a gift shop or anything, and the first thing we do is look at the shirt, start analyzing it.
I was going to ask, do you do that? Do you see someone's shirt, like, I can do that better, or they did that? Or
no, we don't typically do that. We don't like to put down other shops' work, because you don't know the circumstances and the situations. It's so easy. I was very mad at one of our very small bands. It's a local band called Rebuilder. My friend Sal, who, you want to put somebody on a podcast that's, has a story to tell. Sal is the guy. I'll introduce you to him. He's been loyal to me ever since. I got him involved in the merch selling game all the way back in the mid 90s. I was with Big D and I taught him how to do Kicked in the Head. And they took him on tour and I took him on tour. And when I was on my honeymoon, I sent him out with the Murphys for me. And we've been friends ever since. But I can't remember where I was headed with the Sal thing. He's a tiny little band that always supports us, and he's a small band, but he's one of my best friends, and he has been for years and years and years. At one particular show, another merch printer in the neighborhood, went up to him and handed him a business card. He goes, your merch sucks. I can do better. And Sal, this was at the Throwdown. So Sal's band opened the Throwdown a couple of years ago, and he's across the room at his stand, and I'm on the other side selling all the Boston stuff. He's wearing one of the shirts that I already printed, and he's telling Sal that whoever printed your stuff sucks. And Sal brought it over, and he was like, you might want to talk to this guy. And I'm like, and I was pissed. I'm like, where is he? I need to talk to him. You don't do that. You don't do that. It's not what we do. It's not what we do.
No, you shouldn't do that.
No.
Even with our stuff, like we're not going to look at another video and say that video sucks. I could do better than that.
Exactly.
There's no room for that. There's no need for that.
Plenty of print work to go around. There's no need to put down somebody else's work.
Take the high road.
But we do look at prints to see what they did. Oh, there's metallic there. Oh, that is an underbased. Or what the heck is this stuff? You know what I mean? Like we definitely.
And you get inspiration from that? Is that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We do it all the time. It's you try to figure out. It's a puzzle. How did they come into this result? Either A, because you liked it, or B, because you didn't like it. So how did they get here with this? Yeah. And like Chris and I do it all the time.
Yeah. What is? What's the most fun part about your job, would you say? I know you said you've done a lot of tours with great bands and you love, you're kind of a nerd with this whole merch stuff. Like what for you tugs at your heartstrings and say, this is why I want to do this company?
It's definitely the printing. I don't get to run the press as much as I used to. I think it's great that I'm a business owner, that I can do any job within our facility. And I tell everybody that we hire that, I'm like, don't think that I'm the kind of guy that can't come up here and reclaim screens. If you're doing it wrong, I'm coming up, I'm going to boot you out of this, and I'm going to do it myself. If you call in sick tomorrow, if you don't show up next week, this and that, I'm the guy doing it. So don't get the wrong idea. I'm not a suit. I mean, I dress in jeans and a t-shirt and a hoodie every day, and I can jump into any position in our business to get the job done. If we're falling behind on press and FedEx is coming at 4 to pick up today's shipment and Chris I need red 485, I'm not going to make it, I'm running over and I'm mixing ink myself, and whether it's printing films, color separating artwork, there's things in our shop that our employees do better than me, but I know how to do them all.
Right.
So, and I can jump in where I need to. Like, this is why you have employees, is so that they can start excelling in areas that you can't focus on. And, but I can do everything in the business. And the most exciting thing for us is getting an awesome print. And it's unfortunate because the mainly contract printing world that we're in, I can't advertise all the stuff that we do.
Is that right? Yeah.
Oh my God. I would love to broadcast our Instagram page, which is our daily, not daily, monthly. I might put a picture up. It's a working portfolio. And there's so much stuff that I'd love to broadcast and put out there that I'm not allowed to because of, whether it's non-disclosure agreements or this merch company doesn't want us to know, or that, people don't want to know. Some people are really protective about, hey, nobody knows that you're printing this, and that's fine. Because, there are people out there that, oh, I'm going to print this shirt, for such and such. And then as soon as it's out the door, wait 3 days and then go right to that customer and go, cut out the middleman. I'll do it. I did it the last time. That's not a good way to do business. So, we honor the secrecy, shipping blind and all that kind of stuff. And, if a local print shop around here wants to send us a job, I'll print it. I guarantee you I'm never going up to that customer to say, oh, by the way, I don't want to. I don't need to. You can deal with them. You can make a buck. We can make a buck. And I don't have to go, I don't need to do the customer service aspect of it and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to worry about us stealing a customer. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
We're way too busy to get into that. And I don't have a sales force to even bother with that. So
it's probably for the better. Yeah.
Definitely the printing. Every January, Chris and I go out to, there's a convention called Impressions that takes place in Long Beach. It's the biggest print convention in the country anyway. I don't know about the world or not, but it's big. And everybody anybody goes there, the biggest companies, everybody showcasing the latest and the greatest and the new and the whole bit. And if you turn the clock back to last January, not a month ago, but 12 months ago, our focus was learning water-based printing. And water-based printing has existed for a long time, but it's something you kind of need to reteach yourself how to print. Most small shops want no business doing this kind of printing. It is painstakingly slow. It is nothing like what you learned how to do with plastisol printing, and there's just a massive, massive learning curve. However, we do all of the printing for Levitate, and they're a lifestyle brand, and they're a festival, and they're friends of ours, and we know exactly the product that they want to put on their shelf. They want water-based printing. So I said, Chris, we're going to Long Beach, and we got to get it dialed in and start working on water-based. So we flew out there. We met the people. We met all the water-based ink companies, and we had our sight set on this company called Magna out of the UK, and we started working with them. We sent part of our crew to Arkansas to a training session at another shop that just volunteers their place for a week to just do a hands-on water-based thing. And we printed 80% of water-based with Levitate this year, and they're happy and we're happy and we're working at it. Get all the way up to November, and Magna sends me an email and says, do you have any shirts that we can display in the trade show booth? We're like, really? And like, the stuff you guys print is unbelievable. So of course, what we did was we took, at the time that they asked us for the sample prints, we were printing for a merch company out of New Hampshire called Rebellion Republic. And he has some gnarly metal bands like Testament and Exodus and particular band called Death Angel, like early 80s thrash
80s
metal.
Stuff. Yeah.
And so we took those shirts that we printed in straight plastisol, because Death Angel doesn't care what their shirts are printed on, and reprinted them all on water-based so that Magna can put them in the trade show booth. So you go in there and they got, something sports and this and like the normal like cookie cutter stuff. Like here's Long Beach with a Woody and a surfboard, and then
Testament.
Death Angel, 9-color, full water-based, 20-inch long thing. And when we were explaining to them what they did, they were in shock. Like, you did what? We're like, yeah. I mean, we were honored that we could do this. Are you kidding?
Right.
And that's the truth. Like it's something that it's very, very difficult, but it's something we're getting excited about, because the way we're looking at the industry and where we are environmentally, PVC printing inks are probably going to be banned sooner than later.
Right.
Which means everybody pulling a squeegee is going to have to adjust. And there's two ways you can adjust. The first way to adjust is you can get non-PVC inks, which we know of one company that's offering it right now. It's a company that we even use some of their products. And the first thing we do is go, so how much does that cost? And they went, it's double what regular plastisol costs. We're like, ugh. So if you're a shop that doesn't want to print water-based, now you're going to go PVC free, and your print price just doubled on everybody you're printing for. And good luck explaining that to all your customers.
Yeah, your customers are not going to be
your
happy
$8 shirt now costs $14 or whatever. It's not going to go over well. Or you could be in a situation where we're looking at it is, why don't we chip away at the water base, try and master it now before we're forced to, and then we're way ahead of everybody else. Smart. I don't know any of the shops in the area that are printing water-based. I'm pretty sure there's one in Easton that does a good amount of water-based, and there's definitely shops up in New Hampshire that do a little bit of water-based, like the Mountain and Liquid Blue. And I don't know. I'm not saying this like an ego. I don't know anybody who's even testing it, and most shops don't have the equipment to get it done quickly. Water-based ink is not like printing plastisol, where plastisol just needs to get to about a certain temperature, around 320, that kind of thing, and then it's cured. Water-based, it's science. You're evaporating water out of an ink. It needs to sit at a certain temperature for a certain amount of time. You need to have the humidity room in the right just for it to get through the screen, and it's a lot. So this is what's exciting for us right now, and incredibly frustrating.
Well, anything new you're learning is going to be frustrating too. Yeah. But that almost, because we said earlier in the podcast, was that you and your partner try to forecast and plan things. This is exactly that. Yep. It's this new thing you're doing. Yep. One of your clients wanted to do anyways, but now you're hopefully at the kind of cutting edge of doing this. So when it does eventually, you kind of get rid of the old practice. You're there and you're ready for it.
Exactly.
And by that point, hopefully you've mastered it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the nerd in you trying to learn new techniques, and it's fun for you.
So that's what's exciting for us. Yeah, like just being able to evolve and see what's next.
Yeah. So here you are, your company you just changed yesterday, right? Where do you see your company going now? You've built this from a 600 square foot thing. You were touring with Dropkick Murphys, and I know you're still doing some other stuff, but you're at a big facility, top of the line, printing machine. Where do you see yourself going now?
The next thing that's kind of up for us, I went to Tennessee to have a meeting with this massive company that basically handles rock and roll. All the cool shit that you see out there, whether it's WWE or Monster Jam, like the things that get my kids excited, me, Marvel Universe, and just rock and roll. They're a company that is working with the biggest merch companies in the country, Giant, Bravado, Live Nation. They're going to this guy saying, okay, we need 100,000 shirts, Guns N' Roses starts in 1 month. They have 9 machines, and they're building a network of printers all over the country to fill in and take the rest of that workload. So that was the meeting that we had with them to kind of see where that goes. Are we going to continue the work that we're doing and work with these people, or are we going to just, kind of try and keep it a little bit more local and stick with the merch companies we have?
Right. Every
year we get at least another merch company that we don't even know how they found us. It's usually word of mouth saying, hey, I got Vampire Weekend. They're doing Madison Square Garden. I need 1,000 hoodies. All right, yeah, we can do that. Like it doesn't matter who it's for. There's a lot of merch companies out there. Most of them do not have their own screen printing equipment. So they're hiring people like Acme to do the printing for them. All we have to do is hit a deadline. Right. That's really all we have to do.
Right.
So that list of companies is growing and growing and growing. So for us, we're at the point where not only are we trying to, maybe do more local work, because we know that there's companies out here. There's a lot of advertising agencies that are, advertising agencies. They're making stress balls and, maybe golf bags and, obviously T-shirts and whatnot, but they're subbing it out of state. New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania and all this stuff. And they'd have no idea that a company like this exists in right in their backyard. So that was one of the main goals of changing the company name, was to attract more of these advertising agencies and ASI companies, because this past year we got 3 of them that came in our door and we had no idea you existed, and look at this production facility. I'm like, yeah. And they blew right past us because of our name. So that's why we branded as a print company, so that we're more visible to advertising agencies, ASI agencies, other companies out here who are sourcing screen printed product. So that's where we're at, and maybe the thing takes off with the company that we just had a meeting with, and we're doing the coolest of the cool, or maybe we just grow organically. My main focus, to be fully honest, is I want to print for everybody, everything, but I also got to print for the people that are paying the most.
Exactly. Well, that makes a lot of sense.
That's what it boils down to. And I'm not saying that I'm trying to gouge anybody, right? But if I can make 10 grand printing for this guy, and the same amount it takes me to print 80,000 for that guy, I got to go from that guy. So that's where we built the business. So we have all these different merch companies, and if one of these companies just said, we're out, you're not working with us anymore, I have 6 or 7 other to choose from. Right. And that's how I got to keep it fair. I got to try and service everybody within reason, say yes or no, never miss a deadline. And then on top of that, hey, I'm hitting my deadlines. I got to go up a little on the price, take it or leave it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because if we don't make enough money, we won't be in business anymore.
Yeah, we're in the same boat too. We the same thing. We go after a client that we could get a video done in a week and make $5,000, or to do the same amount of time and make 15,000.
Exactly.
I want to go after those clients. Again, it's because it's you want to make money, obviously, too.
The focus of my week was supposed to be, and I've been putting it off all week because I'm not a big numbers guy, is ultimately cost analysis. That's what I'm trying to do right now. I gotta dial in exactly how much it costs for us to put a print on a shirt. Yeah. And that way, it's going to help me decide which jobs we should take and which ones we should pass on moving forward.
Makes
total
I
don't
sense.
care what the print is. You know what I mean? Could be cool, could be not cool. There's plenty of prints that come through our place and go, what is that?
I'll just print it, and
then 2 days later, I need 1,000 more of them. Like, that thing?
Yeah.
That was the ugliest thing we printed in months. But, people like different things. Every band has their own identity and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. Listen, I appreciate you coming on. I think your story is incredible. I mean, as a music fan, I think the bands you've printed for and the companies you've worked with are just incredible. I'm kind of starstruck even just hearing it. If people want to find out more, I'm sure, If people want to find out more about your company, where can they find you?
The best place I tell people to go, because we're in transition right now, is our Instagram page. That's going to give you pretty much our life story right there.
And what is that page?
I'm pretty sure it's Acme, ACME, Print Co. Just CO.
We'll link it here too.
Yeah,
but.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I just changed it.
It's only your company.
I only changed it last night. That's why I got to look it up. It was Acme Band Supply for 8 years, and I just changed it yesterday. I'm like, is it Acme Print Company or Acme Print Co? But it's there, and I obviously I was trying to link them together for months and just take both of them. But there's other companies out there called Acme Print. I think there's one in Nebraska. I think that it's not the most unique name in the world. And,
right.
Like as a fan of cartoons and whatnot, and you get the Acme product and the Wile E. Coyote, and I got a giant Bugs Bunny old tin sign in my office. That was the idea, We can do everything: amp covers, drum heads, backdrops, T-shirts, laminates. We do touring credentials, laminates and wristbands and sticky passes and rock and roll, just everything. That's why we stuck with that name, and now it's stuck and we're forced there and just evolving a little bit. But yeah, our website is acmebandsupply.com. It is incredibly outdated right now. There's a placeholder at acmeprintco.com. That's just the new logo that my buddy Yosef is working on this week, this month. He's hopefully putting that up. And of course, we have a Facebook page with the same traffic that's on the Instagram page at Acme Print Co. Acme Band Supply. I imagine they'll both come up.
They'll
they should
somewhere.
be pointing to each other. I'm not a big tech guy.
Yeah. Awesome. Listen, I wish you the best of luck. And for those of you out there who are looking for anything to do with merchandising, band stuff, you're definitely the guy to use. We will probably end up shifting to you as well for our supply stuff.
We're here whenever.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Shawn.
Thank you.